quality sides, but you know, Sparta Prague for me need to produce tonight. They've had their time to settle, they've had their first game, now it's time to produce.
Yeah, totally agree, because they didn't really produce the other night. They did scrape through on the penalty shootout. Probably on the balance of play they were better the two sides, but as you say, Tony, they've you know, they should have too much quality for this South China Pegasus mixed side. Having said that, really I was a little disappointed in the League 11 as well, Tony. I mean, they've fielded an all-foreign side, which, you know, they've toyed with over the years, haven't they? I mean, they have done that before, but then in recent times they've been having a mixture of the local Chinese. In some of these Lunar New Year tournaments, we've seen all Chinese sides.
Absolutely.
So I mean, it's all a bit of a mixed bag. But you know, to say effectively, well, you know, maybe it wasn't the cream of the League 11, because quite a few of these guys are playing for South China and Pegasus. Of course, you know, in any League 11 you'd have probably Mr. Schultz playing, wouldn't you? You know,
that's right.
And so you can't say it's probably the best 11 players in the league, but nevertheless it was a strong League 11, and unfortunately they've finished fourth in this tournament, albeit I must say they lost 2 penalty shootouts. So.
True. Well, it was close the first game, and it was always going to be, as you say, a balance of play. At least they're both of them. It was exciting in the respect that they were quite equal.
Yeah. Here is Repka now. So as we said, Sparta Prague coming well, pretty much halfway around the world. Their current league season is on hold for the winter period, and you know, they're a little bit you know, perhaps not as positive as they could have been in terms of going forward. But just looking down the lineup, a number of the second half substitutes from the first game, for example, the Ivory Coast Wilfred is starting, and here he is, right, just touching the ball then, and so is Jerry Laskelank, who came on as a second half substitute and looked pretty decent as well. As we see a bit of skill there from the South China number 25 Cristiano.
Well, South China will be looking to build on the good support they've got in the win that they had the other evening. As you say, Mark, it's a mixture of 2 teams as well, so it's actually not even the full South China side, which also makes it a bit awkward for the coach.
Yeah, it's bad work actually from South China. They've got it out wide. It's not a bad ball, and there's a little bit of a miscommunication between Repka, and this is the reserve goalkeeper, Matas Kozik, who didn't play in the first game, so obviously they're mixing things around.
Well, whenever you put the ball in this area, Mark, as we know, there's always the chance that might happen. Bit of confusion. It should be the goalkeeper commanding, dominating his area, and looking a little bit nervous there to start with.
He's come in to the lineup this evening, and obviously want to give everybody a little bit of a run. But yeah, it's tough, isn't it, Tony? Because I mean, if you look at, for example, the South China Pegasus size, as you say, it's not even the South China 11 or, you know, substitutes 14, whatever it is. It's a mixture, and for any side, it's never easy, is it, to gel, irrespective. They may all be the best players in both teams. They're not used to playing with each other, are they?
Absolutely, and they all want to do well. This is the showpiece of the season for them. You know, they're the cream of, as you say, Hong Kong football, and they'll want to show the rest of the world, or in this particular tournament, they are quality players.
Well, I can tell you, just looking down the team sheet there, we only have 2, I want to say Hong Kong Chinese, but of course the goalkeeper is originally from the mainland, Jian Li, and Luk Kun Pong, the number 18, is really the only locally born player to start in the South China Pegasus lineup.
Well, that's right, Mark. As you said a few years ago, it was the other way around. There would be at least 7 to 8 local players, and you'd have maybe 3 to 5 maximum of the expatriates making up, or the non-Chinese players making up the team.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing, isn't it? I mean, of course, years gone by, they've also used this tournament as even not necessarily a warm-up, but the Hong Kong national side have also played as the Hong Kong team representing the local territory here, for obvious reasons, before maybe some Asia Games qualifying or World Cup qualifiers, and then that's when we did see pretty much, it's going to be a corner, pretty much all locally born and bred players, but it's just it's difficult, isn't it, Tony? Because I mean, at the end of the day, they're playing against foreign players who just have the sheer size advantage over the local players and athleticism, really.
Absolutely, it's always a difficult one, but there is the merit of playing the national side.
It's not a bad ball to the far post, and there was well, the marking wasn't that good over there.
I think the word we're looking for is non-existent. Not a particularly good finish. Ball swung over.
Kamil Vadlek
had a little bit to do, really, Mark. Probably a bit harsh on him there. You'll see that he had a defender just in front of him, which it meant he had to try and get it up and over him.
Yeah, well, he certainly did get it up and over, because it was that was the problem the other night. They actually created, well, not an awful lot, but there was enough goal-scoring opportunities. A little bit shots from distance, but you would expect the Sparta Prague quality to prevail, and they didn't really trouble the goalkeeper enough, to be honest.
Well, our expectations are, I mean, we have seen, you know, some quality sides over the years, Mark, and that's the trouble that we've got with this particular tournament. The Hong Kong FA have got a big problem of attracting the likes of the national sides from Denmark and Norway and Holland and some of the other teams that we've had here. And of late we had the South Americans, we had those for a few years, which with lots of flares and flicks which the crowd love. You've got a Sparta Prague side here in the middle of their season or their break, and they're using this tournament to get fit and get ready for the domestic league.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point, Johnny, because that does actually show, as you say, they're never going to be the most flamboyant and probably exciting side to watch.
But I think what we need really is an early goal, Mark. That's what's been lacking from all the games. If one of the teams can score early, it will bring the other team out, and we saw that in the first game with the league side in South China, that South China had to come out in the second half, and it wasn't a bad second half. It was quite lively.
Yeah, very true. I mean, doesn't matter what games you're watching or calling, an early goal makes a big difference in terms of, as you say, the other side have to come out. Remember, this is Schultz now trying to pull it back to the edge of the box. But you know, it's a one-off game. There will be a winner, of course. It will go to penalties again. There's the Ivory Coast young man who didn't look like he really wanted that, to be honest, coming into it.
No, it doesn't look like he's up to match pace. That's what I've noticed with the teams that have come in. It looks very obvious to me that they are at some stage in their pre-season or pre-season break, and they are lacking that sharpness and zip that we're accustomed to watching some of the better sides. And their touch is a little bit off, they're a little bit rusty, but that all falls into the South China's hands, and that makes the balance right in some respects, that both teams, it's a little more even.
Well, Wilfred there, I mean, still at the end of the day, he's 20 years old, that young man, then
you'd expect him to be flying around, really, wouldn't you?
When we were 20, don't it? It's going back a number of years now, but you know, irrespective, you should be hungry to perhaps breaking into the first team, and hopefully we will see him get a little more lively as this game wears on. Sparta Prague being somewhat patient now, which is good to see, trying to keep the ball. Probably just going to run out for a goal kick.
Well, both teams have been given a lot of room. What you've got, the difference with this particular side, South China in particular, they're well organised, and there's the coach there who's basically come in this season, and they're big lads as well. That's one thing you mentioned earlier, Mark. They are physically able to cope with the European sides, and you've seen that in this particular competition, that's one string to their ball or part of their armoury that we used to notice that the Chinese boys weren't able to cope with as the game went on.
Well, that's right, as well. You know, as the game does wear on, obviously the physical conditioning of the local Hong Kong boys was always a problem. They could keep it up for sort of 60, 70 minutes or so, but then, you know, legs would go, and concentration levels also play a big factor. Well, Schultz gets lucky there off the top of his head. It's not a bad ball in, but it's comfortable for Kozic in the Sparta Prague goal.
Well, it looks like he's been sacrificed a little bit, Schultz, to play on the left, which he's normally through the middle. So that gives you an example again of the mixture of players to accommodate individuals.
Yeah.
So Schultz is just slightly out of position, although he's actually caught the eye in the first 15 minutes. in first 10 minutes, beg your pardon, and looks as if he's got the making of the left back, to be honest, or the right back.
Yeah, like you say, Tony, he normally runs right straight down the middle as an out-and-out striker, doesn't he? And that's where he's most lethal, but could be still as effective there. That's a good foot in. So
I think what we've noticed for me is that all the 4 teams, the defence is on top. There's no one really got that little bit of magic and spark to unlock a 1-against-1 or get behind them in all the games that we've seen, and that's why it's been a little bit of a stalemate, Mark.
yeah, would agree with that. There has been some solid defending, most notably with the Koreans as well. As you would imagine, very disciplined, very organised, and as we saw, no goals in the first semi-final, and largely because of very good defensive qualities and organisation. Here's Jesslink. Probably a chance here. No. Local referee intelligently just telling him to calm down instead of...
It's funny, isn't it? When they get in these international competitions, they actually start refereeing properly. You put them in the local games, and the yellow cards and red cards come flying out.
It is strange, isn't it? I mean, you want to say to them, kind of watch a bit of Premier League or something. Just tell the boy, just have a word with him and give him 2 or 3 chances. But they... It was good to see it. In fact, the game that we did on Monday, the second semi-final, I thought it was very well officiated. There was no real, well, not an awful lot for him to do, but what he did have to do, he did very well, I must say. So hopefully we'll see a similar approach this evening. Not sure how many we have. As I mentioned, live from Hong Kong Stadium, and temperature is around probably 17-18 degrees, so it's not as cool or as cold as it was on Monday.
Well, interestingly enough, Mark, this is for all that we've said about teams travelling and all the problems of travelling in hotels and acclimatising. It's a nasty tackle there. Someone's got one in the face, and the South China boys come off worse by the looks of it. Looks like the captain there, Lubis. Oh, his foot was really high there. We saw one of those already from South China. They must be practicing that with a goalkeeper.
Well, that was Wilfred who was on the receiving end of that one, and it was Lopez actually who's taken a little knock to the face. It's going to run all the way through.
And I was saying, for all the difficulties of travelling and acclimatising to this tournament, it is the best time of year to play.
Yep.
The weather's absolutely fantastic for a game of football. It's not the greatest one to watch sometimes outside, but there isn't the humidity and the heat that we've become accustomed to in the summer games.
Well, that's always a problem, isn't it? We used to, I'm not sure who we may get later in the summer, but whether it's end of season tours or pre-season, to some of the European sides coming out here, it's been absolutely terrible to watch, because I remember years ago even Manchester United coming, and they really struggled big time in this humidity that we have here, and it was sort of world-class players. I remember looking at Ryan Giggs, and he was really struggling to get around, and I mean, you just never see that back home. He's been supremely fit throughout his whole career, and here it just saps it out of you, as we know, only too well, of course. So it does make for a big difference in quality of the temperature. It's, again, we're even seeing some advantage played by the referee. Well, he's brought it back now. He's going to have a word. Again, no card, hopefully.
I think he's ready to give one out soon. There's been a few little flicks and silly little niggly fouls. Nothing nasty, just catches him here, I think.
Yeah, it was just... Yeah, he did, didn't he? He came through the back of... that is our Luk Kun Pong, the Chinese right fullback, who is locally born. Spell with Happy Valley when... Still a little zealous there, and our Korean coach for South China, Kim Pang-gong. He told me the other evening during the interview that he wanted to play the Korean side tonight, obviously.
Absolutely.
And to try and beat them.
That would have travelled well back home.
Cristiano Pierre up there, and right on cue there is our South China coach. They've just conceded a corner there, but that's, you really just can't give them time and space in there, can you? Because that was the first time we really saw.
Well, that shows you how hard South China will have to work during this game, because that's Schultz tracking back there and heading out in his own 18-yard box. So they're doubling up on the flanks, getting 8-9 men behind the ball, which is always difficult, which is, as I said earlier, that's why you need your magicians to unlock a very, very organised defence. Let's see what they can do with this.
A decent delivery, and not bad. He also came on as a second half substitute, Igor Zoflak, the other evening. But easily defended against. And really surprises me, Johnny, watching a lot of football around, even in the Premiership to an extent. The deliveries, right? There's no pressure on the ball in terms of free kicks or corners, and players of this caliber, you would think maybe one or two of these can be excused, but really in my book still not. They're professional footballers, and there's no pressure. It's to first yellow card, and while the referee did okay, he's been sort of
well, he's put a little bit of extra on it. He's exactly the same tackle as before. He knows he's coming. Have a look at him. Look, up he goes. And you thought he'd been shot by a sniper the way he rolls around after, which is a little bit unfortunate. It is a foul, but that does make the referee's decision up when a player looks as if he's been really hurt. Yeah,
and I mean, just hate to see that. It's part and parcel of the game, unfortunately, but it's never nice to see, because effectively it's conning and tricking the officials, isn't it? It makes their life very, very difficult.
The only thing I would say is that there was one, as we said earlier, and perhaps that's it. As we've said, the referee's had enough of the silly little laughters. It's not a nasty foul. It's just unnecessary, and I think it's a good yellow card to keep the game moving along at the right pace. They don't seem to have the they're not coordinated, are they, South China? You can see there that the team's in bits and pieces a little bit. There's a ball going there, and there's two players going for the same ball. They don't seem to have that sort of like cohesiveness together, and obviously the time factor with them not having much time to work together is always difficult.
Well, this is not a bad position. Tele Schultz, the Brazilian South China striker, wins a free kick, and reasonably is another Brazilian, Manilo Santos. So let's have a talking about the delivery. Let's see what he can do here, because that's in a very, very good spot. Not a lot of movement though in there. Gone far post, and there's a push on someone.
Well, he was never going to get that mark. We see it all the time. The defender holds his ground. It needs to be something exceptionally physical for that to happen. You rarely see a penalty given for that.
It's even balls like that, Johnny. I mean, you want to see them zipped in with pace, really, and then it can come off of a knee, as we saw before. A little bit of confusion between the central defenders and the goalkeeper, and really, against a side like Sparta Prague, who are big and physical at the back, even if it is going to come near to a South China player, there's only going to be one winner, you would think.
Well, it probably is South China's best chance of, a set piece is what they've really got to be looking for with the size of the team they've got. They seem to be labouring a little bit, once you get into the last third. So you know, if they can tweak out a few little free kicks and corners, that they're always going to be dangerous, as you said. But the delivery's got to clear the first man, which is why he's obviously trying to do, but just lofted it a bit too hard.
So Sparta Prague, this is a little better. Kusnia. A decent game, actually. Andrei Kusnia, number 13, on Monday evening, and that's not bad either. Well, tried to pull it back for Wilfred. Not sure who it was in there, but Wilfred either didn't read it or wasn't probably the best ball to him. But here he is again. It's not a bad little flick.
I'm not sure if he meant that, Mark. Thought he was trying to pull it down for himself, and his strike partner was up there to benefit from it. Just a lofted ball into nowhere, really. South China unable to deal with it, and there again, just another slash and a lash. That was never going to go in. That was a better cross, as you say. Good defending, actually.
Yep.
Give the South China credit where credit's due. The fullback came across there, Franza.
Yeah, and certainly that's a good flick this time from Wilfred. He finds a man. That's not so good, but it has. Well, there was a real push there, wasn't there? And he's given a penalty. Now we are going to hopefully get a couple of replays, but straight away when I saw that, it looked like he'd eased him out of the way, didn't he? And it may have been just on the edge of the box, mind you.
Well, it can't be, because he gave a penalty.
Well, he's given it, but
I know what you mean. It looked more out than in.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can have a look. And here's the customary yellow card for arguing something that's not going to be reversed. Always easy from this position, because we're not emotionally involved with it. But again, I think what they're saying is that it could be deemed to be a soft penalty, Mark. The contact was minimal. And I think if it was given outside I always think if it's given outside the 18-yard box, it's given inside the 18-yard box, it's a pen, it's a free kick. But as you say, it's just inside there, isn't he? He's generous.
He is.
He's very generous.
Talos Schultz, our man who we've been seeing quite a bit of, to be honest, the Brazilian who's given it away. So Wilfred steps up, and that's a fantastic save, in all honesty. Jian Li dives to his right, and on first viewing it didn't look like a bad penalty, but a tremendous save from the local goalkeeper. And it's funny, but in a lot of these international tournaments, it's quite strange how the local goalkeepers seem to always perform very, very well.
Well, the only thing I'd be worried about if I was Sparta Prague is the old I'm going to even it up one. Yeah. Which sometimes happens with referees when they feel they've made a mistake. But let's have a look at this again. Yeah, let's give the keeper a lot of credit there. Wasn't a particularly well hit penalty, Mark, which allowed him to get across. If he had to give that a little bit more venom and kept it low. It was a nice height for him, look at that. Yeah, but he guessed right, Mark, and he got across there. Look, he's nearly right in the corner there. Terrific save. Yeah,
as you say, it just needed a little more power, and perhaps a little higher.
He must be absolutely really annoyed with that, because you don't get a gift like that often here. And it was a bit of a gift, and they haven't been able to take it. Let's hope South China look upon this as a gift, and they can kick on and push on and make it work for them.
Well, they've got to be a little careful now, because that was Roberto Franza, the left fullback, and South China already on a couple of yellow cards.
Well, what's happening a little bit, Mark, Sparta Prague are just starting to get a little bit more dominant over the halfway line, getting into the last third. South China aren't really doing anything. When they get the ball, they're giving it straight away, and Sparta Prague are just starting to build up a little bit of momentum now. Here's an example.
Yeah, just given away to no one in the middle of the park. Jeslenik, it is who's...
And what tends to happen, Mark, they keep getting pushed further and further back, which is why the likes of Schultz are in their own 18-yard box defending. Did a great little defensive header for the corner. But you start putting flair midfield players and attackers in the last third around the 18-yard box, and you're asking for silly fouls and free kicks.
And that's what happens, isn't it? I mean, as we know, strikers or forwards are not really, you basically don't want them inside your 18-yard box. You want to push them away. They're not It's not their game, in all honesty. But whether they got a little lucky or not, here are Sparta Prague. Travelled through a lot of bodies, and
good strike here, Mark. Just off target, really. The bounce would have beaten the goalkeeper had it been on target. It was, as much as he got across for the penalty, he was a little bit late getting across there. You'd be glad to see that one go by.
That was another second half substitute from the first game. The picture there, Miroslav Matusevic, who, as we said, in the first game they made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 changes in the second period, and all of those 6 have started, with the exception of no, I beg your pardon, he is also starting as well, Lubas.
Well, we might want to second guess the coach and ask the question, will he bring his strongest team out in the second half, in the sense that they're going to have a good 45 minutes with fresh legs after the first little lot have worn them out a little bit.
Well, that probably is the tactic, and let's hope so, because really, you know, it was, I suppose, no surprise, but with Patrick Berger being sort of the wrong side of 35 now, then you'd expect him, you know, you could just see his quality in the first game. He really did pull some strings in the middle of the park, and he looked still the best player on the pitch, in my opinion.
Well, for me, Mark, I've just been watching the last 4 or 5 minutes, and the referee's had enough, because, quite frankly, Sparta Prague are very indisciplined. The fouls that they're giving away are so unnecessary that they've now starting to pick up the odd yellow card, which means that the next time he does it, it's going to be a red, and the referee will have no choice but to do that. It's just indiscipline.
Well, it was Sergio who picked up that one for Sparta Prague, and he didn't feature at all in the it's good work this time. And another foul there. The referee has allowed play to continue, which is nice to see. And the first effort, it wasn't too bad. It actually travelled some distance in the end, and it was Fernando Lopez there with the effort.
Well, that was more like it, Mark. Shown a little bit of tenacity there. They've won the ball back in the Sparta Prague's last third, and Fernando there doesn't think twice, sees the goal, and that's a great effort. Keeper does very well.
It's a good save in the end, and Repka it was with a boot on that one. That's not the best, and Sparta could break here if they can move it quickly. It's a poor ball out though to that far side, and easily covered from South China right back. So South China come again. You can hear this local crowd support. And Roberto, our left fullback, is all the way on the opposite side. He was up there for the corner. And Thomas Repka.
Scowling, growling away as he normally does. That's his happy face, by the way.
Yeah, I was saying the other day, he looks more like a middleweight boxer to me than a football player. He still looks very, very fit and combative. So that's a little better, but it's going to be another corner.
I think he might have come for South China now. No, you're right, it's another corner. But that's the sort of ball, Mark, you were talking about.
Yep.
That's got a lot of pace on it. It's very difficult to deal with, and what happens is the defender can't get away cleanly. What we need now is for South China to have a little bit more conviction, a little bit of self-belief, and start attacking the ball now instead of waiting for it to come.
Another forward, Wilfred, was all the way back there defending, which really didn't want him to be, and he was potentially a push on a South China player.
That was a bit of a waste, Mark. We were talking about free kicks and corners, and what's he done? Taking a short one and they've given it away. And now they've ended up the other end giving a corner away themselves. Yeah,
I just hate to see that. It's, as you say, it's gone from, I mean, it's just criminal, really. It's gone from a great position, which, as we've mentioned, is really, I won't say South China and Pegasus, this mixed team's only hope, but it's one of the better, you know, potential dead ball situations. Is going to reap them maybe some rewards, and they're just a complete waste. So the referee just seeing a little pushing and shoving, and it is going to be Igor Zoflak with this corner for Sparta Prague. And the referee is, I must say, Tony, he is communicating to the players, which I always like to see.
I think he's doing well.
Well, was looking for the man who's come near post. And, yeah, I think the Sparta Prague, yeah, Peter Sergio there, he's German, which is obviously not quite the Czech name that we've been seeing, and he's 22 years of age. So.
Well, let's also give South China credit, or otherwise, they're being a bit cute when if they're going to be tackled, they're going down.
Yeah.
What you're saying to Sparta Prague is you have to stand up. You can't go flying into me at the back. If you do, I'm going to go over and I'm going to get free kicks, and therefore we're going to break the game up and we're going to get the ball forward. So, you know, it's using their brains as well. Here we'll see an example. If he's going to clatter into him, then he's going to be giving free kicks away.
Well, also, I mean, I'm sure Sparta Prague know full well that you know, the majority of the South China Pegasus side are actually South Americans, and they're notorious, as we know, not being sort of disrespectful at all, but they know.
Well, that's the culture.
Yeah.
The culture is to use your body, get your body between the ball and the man, and the rules in that particular part of the world are that you get the benefit of the doubt. It doesn't work so well in the Premier League, although it's starting to creep that way, where the physical side of the English game is starting to be questioned a little bit. Although, for me, without going off the mark too much, I think it's absolutely outrageous, some of the tackles that go flying in there.
Well, yeah, it's finding that balance, isn't it? And you know, it's never easy to officiate. The ball was moving. It's never easy to officiate any sort of top-level soccer game or football game these days. But watching some Italian football as well, we covered the Coppa Italia on TVB a few games not so long ago, and that's as bad, Tony. It really is. I mean, they're just going down like, you know, these big Italian defenders are just falling like as though they've been.
It's another example as we're talking about it.
And it gets frustrating for the you know, the third party and the you know, sort of the viewers, doesn't it? Because the game's not flowing. It gets to be like American football, this stop and start, which is not what we want to see. It's a decent flick on, and Schultz is through here, and he's opened the score, and he found a little gap, and that is the capability. So he gave a penalty away at the other end, and now he does what he does best. As Tony mentioned, I'm not sure if he's been the top scorer, Tony, in the Hong Kong League the past few seasons, but he's certainly a very dangerous individual. Talis Schultz, the South China striker.
Yes, well, he's been South China's, I believe, in the sense that this is his strength. He's coming off the wing for the first time. Look, he's looking at the flight of the ball. He's on the move already, and we've got 3 Sparta Prague defenders standing static square. It's a very, very simple goal, a very easy goal. And there's us criticising the foul that's been drawn at the other end, and it's resulted in the free kick from a dead ball. Look at that static defending, 3 defenders. He's done them all with 1 move. Great finish though, Mark. Fabulous finish. Big fella's off the mark again.
He kept his head, didn't he, as those Sparta Prague players were bearing down on him, defenders should I say, and really it was a tidy finish. Good flick on. It was Cristiano with the flick on there, and it was a little bit Route 1, wasn't it, in all honesty?
Absolutely, yes. It was basic in its 2 moves. 1 through the middle, head on, and a goal to finish with. Sometimes you don't need 25 passes. When a defence is as flat and square as that is, which is poor defending, quite frankly. Great finish, let's not take it away from him. But that's at this level you would expect one of them to have read the flight of the ball and dropped off, and even the fullback picking Schultz up would have done half the job.
Good trickery on the edge of the box, and it's Kamil Valek again. Here he is once more. Valek's trying to just chip Lee in the South China Pegasus goal.
Well, as we know in football, Mark, if you don't take your chances, that's what happens. They've literally done nothing, to be honest, South China, and they're finding themselves 1-0 down. Sparta Prague have had the lion's share of possession, but they haven't really been that venomous in front of goal. And let's see if they can come back now.
Matusevic with the corner, and again a poor one. It really disappoints me to see that at this level. Wilfred going up for it. It's fallen to someone, and they've got to be a little careful now. The worst time, South China do have to remain focused, and particularly you know, it's always the worst time, isn't it? Just after you go a goal up, just the concentration gets lost.
And Lini lost it there. That was a little snapshot there from Vasic. And I'll have a little slow-mo. Good little ball here. He doesn't know what's behind him. Puts it over the top. That's what happens. Defenders, bodies round the box. A little unlucky there. He couldn't do much else and hit that very early.
Well, it's coming up just 35 minutes gone. This is a foul against the Sparta Prague captain, who is Lubos, for this evening's game. Patrick Berger, of course, is the regular normal captain. And South China have possession of the football again in a reasonably decent position. But certainly, Tony, yes, for the goal, there was 3 Sparta players who really all came for the same ball, didn't they? And you'd expect one of them to have dropped off. Well, he's gone for goal, and wild and high.
Well, they've just been caught with one square ball and one flick mark. It's called a schoolboy error. And they'll be very, very annoyed with themselves, the coach will, because, you know, it's a goal from nothing, really. It's a hopeful ball through the middle, a little flick on, and it's one of those where really the striker's made something out of nothing, and he did exceptionally well with the finish. Now South China got something to hold on to now, and as we've seen in the past, I think it was Liverpool in the summer, you know, when they've got their tails up, they're quite a tidy side.
Well, nothing to lose. They are not expected to win this, obviously. When you're faced with the might of, I wouldn't say one of the biggest, because they're certainly not, but a formidable European outfit in Sparta Prague, albeit they're not they're quite as quick and sharp as they probably should be, but nevertheless they still should have enough quality to put this local side to bed, you would think. Wilfred with a flick on there.
Well, you know and I know, Mark, it's very, very easy to defend when you've got something to hold on to. Normally when this tactic of trying to catch teams on the break, etc., is what South China have been trying to do, and getting bodies behind the ball. If you can get that goal, it's just a massive lift and a massive bonus. And for some, you know, all of a sudden you see people, the confidence comes back. We're looking South China knocking it around now, enjoying the ball, and again squeezing out another foul. The referee's bought it as well. But you can't tackle from behind, Mark. I mean, that's the bottom line as well.
Yeah, it is, and they have done that on numerous occasions, albeit our Brazilian contingent in the South China side have been making a meal of it, should we say. But nevertheless, you just can't come through the back of somebody like that.
Well, that's a yellow. That's spiteful, really. He's caught him on the back of the Achilles tendon there. He can't get the ball, so he's just left him a little calling card.
Well, a little frustration coming into this one for Sparta Prague, and I'm sure well, it's definitely not a friendly now.
What's going to happen now is, I've noticed already that South China are getting closer to Sparta Prague. I thought in the first 10-15 minutes that they were dropping off too far and allowing them to have a lot of the ball. And as I said, now they're getting closer, now they're getting tighter, and they're being more competitive. They're giving little fouls away, which is okay as long as you've got 8-9 people behind the ball. He should be a lot closer. We shouldn't let him get across him.
No, that's right. You've got to close that ball down. At least, you know, make him not necessarily win the ball, but make him play the ball back and push the danger away.
Well, what Sparta have got the problem is just raising their game a little bit. And once you're in that sort of easy, tempo where you're waiting for the goal to come, when it goes against you, sometimes trying to raise your game, you get a bit frantic and you get a bit frustrated. They've got plenty of time to get back into this. That's the good news for them.
Yeah, I'm sure they will remain patient, but nevertheless they do need to squeeze the initiative a little further to get back in this one, and that's better work straight away. Wilfred with a chance, didn't really connect, did he?
No. It's a good move though, Mark. It's more like it from Sparta.
It's not a bad ball either. It's Repko who's not dealt with it, to be honest, and the goalkeeper's come a long way. It's going to be a foul in Sparta Prague's favour. But that was again positive from this mixed South China Pegasus side. They move the ball quickly. Repko
That's for nothing, really. He's even pulled his leg out, to be honest.
It was Kim Yuan Gun for the local side. It's better defending. He got tight and made the block together with the clearance. There's Sergio again.
Just trying to force it a little bit there, Sparta. Wasn't really on that ball. The fullback had him marked, and in the end, good possession given away.
Yeah, it really is. You know, and you can see why. You know, we don't really have that many of them around now in terms of world football either, Tony. But you can see that, you know, you can see the value of a, of course, but a bit of a Zidane or even a Paul Gascoigne when on his day. You know, somebody to unlock things. And really now, when you look around, there's not that many world-class players. You know, in that ilk anymore, you know, who can go around 2 or 3 men and just open space up like those individuals used to do. Of course, there was you know, many more, but you know, I don't know. You know, the game's changed, hasn't it? Of course, but
well, I mean, you can only use Robinho as an example of having to pay 25 million for the likes of Robinho, who has got this unbelievable ability to be so unpredictable that you can win games. And you hear Scolari complaining about it, even though they're a fantastic side, and they are. You know, he's complaining that they can't win games. You've got Liverpool are struggling at home to beat people because a lot of these sides now are very, very organised. They're good athletes. They're big, strong teams. They've taken 4 or 5 years to understand how to work out the big boys. You know, you look at Arsenal now; they get frustrated week after week, and that's just the way the game's going.
Yeah, it's really not easy, as we see Sparta Prague. That's good work from the young German, and he's found it into the box. Wilfred, can he turn? Got to be careful with him. He could go down as well, and it's going to be a Sparta Prague corner. That was a lot better from the European giants there.
Well, Wilfred slowly coming into the game. He's looked a little bit more of a potent force as the game's progressed. And he did very, very well there to hold off a couple of defenders and work himself a corner.
So Zoflek's gone all the way. Igor Zoflek on that far side. And that's not... I was going to say it wasn't a bad corner, but again, he's not got enough zip onto it for me. Not quite clearance. A decent early throw, though. Headed away, Fronza, Roberto Fronza. Looking to offload, and he does get some help. Ball's gone out, mind you.
They're throwing a lot more balls into the box, Mark. They just need to start getting people on the end of things. You know, the last 3 or 4 minutes, crosses have come in, balls have flashed across the 6-yard box, but it's always a red shirt that manages to get his head on it. You've just got to start attacking that ball now.
Well, I'm sure if South China Pegasus can hold on until the break, their Korean coach Kim will be somewhat relieved, because this last 5 or 10 minutes or so they have imposed themselves, haven't they? Since they've gone a goal down, Sparta Prague, that you can see they've just quickened it up a little bit, moved the ball that bit quicker, and it makes all the difference, of course.
Well, it's vital that they do go in South China Pegasus 1-0 up and hold on to this, because they can get reorganised.
Oh, there's a man over for South China. If you can find the target, well, not going in 1-up, Tony. They're going in 2-up, and that's well, he's got gun on the back of his shirt, and that's exactly what it was. He pulled the trigger there somewhere. It's Kim Yuan-gun, the Korean boy, who's what a good finish as well.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head there, Mark. You know, whatever's come to them, they've done very well with up front. You know, this is again another speculative ball. It's not even a challenge. Schultz does well. He knows what he's doing. Great awareness here, Mark. Great awareness. But what a finish. He's got his knee right over that ball there. It's bouncing. It's a very, very difficult skill that's coming up here. Again, this is a very poor defending. But Schultz here, fully aware of what he's doing. But even better awareness here. Lovely weighted ball. and that's a great half volley. No chance for the keeper.
That is not easy, as you say. It's coming to him sort of high and spinning, bouncing, and he's really connected with that one. He's kept his composure. But in all honesty, Tony, there was nobody picking him up. Nobody was closing him down. He settled and picked his spot. And that was a tidy finish. So the South China Pegasus local side look like, as we approach just over 45 minutes, not sure how long stoppage time we have. There you go, 1 minute, which is no surprise. There's been no real, except a few yellow cards chewing up time, there's been nothing else. So they are going to go 2 goals up at this half-time break. So it is going to be interesting to see what Sparta Prague do in terms of substitutions in the second half.
Well, it's great. It's a great position for South China Pegasus coach to be in, Mark. He can actually now set his side out a little less adventurous. He can look to close things down, you know, look for the first 25 minutes of the second half. Let's not hope that they give anything away in the next 40 seconds or whatever. But what a fantastic bonus that is for them to go in 2-0 up.
And, you know, as you say, Tony, here's the captain, Ribeiro de Manta, who's looks like he's just got perhaps a dead leg, but as it just goes into the half-time break, very I'm sure the referee is going to blow up as soon as the boy gets on his feet here. But as you said, Tony, they've had they've had 2 opportunities, haven't they, the local side, and they've taken them both.
Yeah, they've done well for them. I mean, they've rode their luck with a pen. We've seen it so many times in so many competitions. They didn't take their chances, and consequently Sparta should have been in the driving seat, and in the end they've ended up having to chase it a little bit or push on. Second goal's gone in, the first goal's gone in, and bang, they've got hit with a break, and before you know where they are, they're 2-0 down. He must have wondered what's happened to him. I think the old pro will be up in a minute, Mark. The old hairspray normally does it.
Yeah, well, it is half-time any second now, and it will give the South China Pegasus captain time to recover as well during this half-time break. So confirmation there. It's Tele Schultz and Kim who have taken South China Pegasus to a 2-goal lead in this final of the 2009 Lunar New Year Cup, live from Hong Kong Stadium. And what a great result it is so far for South China Pegasus.
Would have been to 2-0 up and bring them on gently for a little meander, but it's all changed, which is great for spectators and great for us.
Well, it really is, and we see 2 changes for South China. Deng Jinghuan coming on, another mainland Chinese born, but playing here in Hong Kong for South China. And we have one on the back of his shirt. It's Louise Berry, so I'm going to stick with that because his surname's not that easy to pronounce.
Good call. As long as his first name's not Chuck.
But I can also tell you the number 14 who has come on for Sparta Prague is Kadlik. And down my roster list here, Kadlik is just 16 years of age, Tony. Wow. So he's a forward, and if we do get a close-up of it...
Well, he is there, I think, just in the thick of things.
Yeah, that's it.
That's that youth with exuberance that we were talking about. He'll be fizzing around all over the place.
Well, it's great to see, isn't it? A 16-year-old player being given a chance here. He's come halfway around the world with Sparta Prague, and he's going to get 45 minutes to show us what he can do.
Great stage to do it, Mark. Great place to do it, because the South China Pegasus are putting in a fantastic effort at the moment, but this is where you can do some damage.
So Zoflak, Igor Zoflak's looking straight for Jan Hollander, and that's good defending in the end from the South China boy, which, if I'm not mistaken,
goal scorer,
is a goal scorer, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, that was not a bad ball, actually. He had a little bit of pace on it, and he dealt with it well.
Yeah, it's always dangerous, isn't it? Because, I mean, even if the defenders go up, it can flick off of somebody's head, and it can just, you know, it's just a dangerous ball in, and not easy to defend against.
Well, if we actually think about it, Mark, if you look at Lai in goal there, he actually hasn't really had much to do apart from save the penalty.
Yeah.
And that shows you how much of a force they were, although they had a lot of possession, Sparta Prague. You know, in the last third, apart from a few crosses that came in, they weren't really troubling South China Pegasus.
No, that's right. He didn't really have much to do, and not even in terms of coming out and punching or picking up crosses either. Not an awful lot of danger.
But I don't think South China have to change their game plan much at all, Mark. I think, you know, they got it right in the first half. They weren't punished. It's really up to Sparta Prague to impose themselves on South China Pegasus now, rather than South China to change their game. And the longer it goes on without a goal, the more desperate they'll get, and the more chances will come on the break.
Well, that's not a bad ball either, and Jan Hollander was nearly on the end of that.
It's another silly foul by Hollander. He's grabbed him round the waist. He's got his back to goal. He's going nowhere, and he's now let him out of jail.
It was Luk Kun Pong, the local Chinese fullback, and there is the Korean coach for South China Pegasus. Well, they always like to play a little bit, goalkeepers, and he got away with that one.
Well, that was slow motion, wasn't it, really?
Hollander just not able to get that ball down, and it's not dealt with either. There's a little push, maybe. The referee's done well.
Well, he did well in the end, Mark, but he made himself an awful lot of trouble unnecessarily.
Well, the goalkeeper's totally missed that then, and it looked like Hollander may have pushed him. They got lucky there, South China.
I thought so as well, Mark. I don't know what he's pulled him back for. I think the goalkeeper had his eyes closed.
I think he did.
The fullback had his closed, and the look at this. It's just for a little shove there on the fullback, which again Hollander's been guilty of already. If he's just left him alone, he would have ended up picking that one up.
And if you have a look at this, Tony, it looks like Lee gets a little bit of Hollander's shirt there. Got to be careful doing that kind of thing.
No, I think that was a good decision in the end by the ref. A little shove in the back, unnecessarily again.
Rutgers had to come all the way back, and Peter Sergio does go all the way back.
Surprisingly enough, a lot of South China Pegasus joy has come from the long ball. When we were talking about that physical presence and the height, which is something that the teams of past have never been able to have.
Yeah, very true. They've had a lot of joy with that, but it's maybe more down to the poor marking as well. Nobody's challenged for either of those two headed flick-ons. It's wasted. And it's a shame, because Igor Zoflak is their dead ball man, really. You'd expect him to do a little better.
He looks tired already. It's only 50 minutes gone. If we can just keep it nice and tight, frustrate them for the next 15 minutes, it'll all go to plan.
Interesting to see how South China do perform should they get a goal back. Well, they've popped in here. That was no free kick at all, and
he's tried to con himself a little penalty there, which is never going to happen. Just got his body across. And again, having said that, the defender's taking chances, Mark, by letting the ball bounce in the box.
Yeah.
They're not clearing things away. Here's another example. You know, they're just not winning their headers against the strikers.
No, he's just got to go out and attack that ball, hasn't he? I mean, he's come from the blind side, admittedly, but you just no business allowing it to bounce, as you said.
Well, I think it shows the likes of Repka's years catching up on him. In the old days, he would have been flying through there, taking no prisoners, and it would have been a no-go zone.
So sprayed wide from Santos, and here is the opening goal scorer Schultz. That's our substitute there, number 4, Deng. And don't go diving in there, he's just asking for trouble. Here's the youngster.
But again, the numbers beyond the ball mark, if you look there, you know, there's 8 South China players already there, bang, straight away. It's going to be hard for them to break them down. And they'll break the game up and they'll force little fouls, slow things down. That's the 16-year-old you're on about. 16 going on 25 by the looks of it.
Yeah, exactly. He's doesn't really look that young, but nevertheless, it's probably something they eat in Prague.
I won't say anything.
So if you have just joined us here on TVB, we're live from Hong Kong Stadium. It's the annual Lunar New Year Cup 2009, and this is the final game. South China Pegasus, the mixed local side, and they are playing against Sparta Prague in the yellow strip, and I can tell you they are 2 goals to 0 up after really, well, just converting the 2 chances they had in the first half. Really, they didn't have a lot else, did they?
2 very good finishes, Mark.
But Sparta Prague are slowly starting to find their feet in the second half after, well, 3 changes at half-time.
Well, the only thing that they might have in their favour, Sparta, but I don't know, because South China Pegasus are right in the middle of their season. They haven't stopped and they're quite fit. Normally what happens is that the local sides tend to run out of steam. But I'm not sure whether or not Sparta Prague have got that zip about them that I spoke about earlier to break this side down in the last 15 minutes, which is where they'll get a bit tired.
Well, yeah, that's right. And they really haven't. They just sort of got back, and they've only sort of been together for the best part of 2 or 3 weeks, really. So, and you can see that, can't you? You really can. They're not, as you say, the South China Pegasus players are definitely match fit, should we say, because they're right in the middle of their season, and there wasn't too much of a sort of a Christmas New Year break, was there? I mean,
they had a cup games, didn't they, in December?
Yeah. So it's not like these players have been sort of hanging around too much, and certainly the players involved in the Lunar New Year Cup would have continued from their last games right before Christmas to join up together training. So in terms of fitness and durability, you'd probably think the local boys may be even a little
stronger, yes. Well, the problem is the way that Sparta are playing, they're not really getting in behind them.
No.
And they're not really working them. Everything's in front of them. So what you've got is the back 4 are very comfortable. They're not having to run at all. The 4 midfield people are closing down, and the front 2 are squeezing on as well. So they're not really hurting them and making them run and punishing them when they haven't got the ball.
Yeah, it is all a little too direct, isn't it? We haven't seen, you know, there's not been too many balls around the back, and they're not sort of playing with an out-and-out winger. We saw, let this one go, but we did see Emmanuel Pamic, who's on the subs bench. He did quite well in the first game in terms of getting around the back, as well as Martin Zeman. Yeah. Down the left-hand side had some joy, but tonight it's been pretty much direct.
Yeah, see, everything they're doing, Mark, is going through the middle. That might be a little bit because South China are doubling up on the flanks, but there's no width. Everything's all bunched up in the middle, and it's breaking down, and it's perfect for South China Pegasus. They'll be loving this.
Oh yeah, it's easy to defend against relatively, isn't it? Yeah,
indeed.
As you say, nobody's really hurting them in the dangerous areas so far.
I think what I've seen in the past over the years, as long as the hosts can keep their concentration, not give away a silly little goal, which tends to happen here, somebody switches off, loses concentration, or as we've seen in the past, a fantastic finish, which on this evening it's been the other way around, where South China Pegasus have punished their opponents. You know, everything's going exactly as you would expect.
Well, we did see a few minutes ago a little sort of miscommunication between Lee, the goalkeeper for Pegasus, and as you say, Tony, it's that type of sort of error just creeping into the game with a lack of concentration that maybe the undoing of South China, but there's no undoing at the moment. It's Taylor Schultz down that left-hand side, who really is a firm favourite here in Hong Kong, and he's showing his well, his credentials this evening as well.
Yeah, he's had a good game so far, Mark, and you know, he's been one of the highlights of this evening.
It's a good ball in as well from him. And there's the other goal scorer. It was from one goal scorer to another. Oh, they've got away with it, have Sparta Prague. It's a good tackle, mind you. And Schultz is all by himself on this left-hand side. And looking for Hollander, and they had to be careful there. Just Hollander nearly got around there.
Well, they've tried it 3 times now, Mark, and to be fair, it looks about their best ball. The keeper doesn't look that assertive in his goal. He's letting things bounce on the edge of the 18-yard box, and what you would like there is for him to come up and sweep.
Yeah.
So as that ball is bouncing, he's actually coming out and clearing it, rather than the defender watching it bounce and running towards his own goal.
He doesn't look comfortable, does he? As you say, he's not really staying, or he's not coming. He's a little bit no man's land,
Yeah.
and he could get caught. He's certainly not coming with any conviction anyway. As we see South China, oh, that was on, just not quite the execution he would have liked. Here's Schultz again.
But you see the difference with South China. At least they've got a little bit of a plan. The plan is, you know, we'll try and get it through the front 2 and get a flick on. If not, we get it out to Schultz. We've just seen there about 5-6 times. Every time they get the ball, it goes out to the left, and Schultz will drive down to the line and try and get across. They're asking for a corner, which he probably deserves, as the ball was spinning there off someone's knee by the looks of it. But we can't see that with Sparta.
No, it's all too direct, isn't it? There's no real invention. Here's the young boy, but he gets muscled out of it all too easily. And South China doing well in the middle of the park at the moment. Schultz again. Well, but there's ideas there, isn't there? I mean, you know, they're pulling off his marker at the far post. He's trying to lay it into the boy there, and you know,
the idea was right, Mark. What, as I said, what's going to happen with Sparta Prague is that, you know, as the game progresses, South China should get more chances and more space, because they've got to push on. They can't just sit back with 4 or 5 playing across the front, playing across the back 4. They've got to try and get it forward and get men forward, and that'll be falling into South China Pegasus' hands.
Well, Hollander, first time he's really had a chance to run at someone, and that's better from the European side, because Hollander got away down that left-hand side, and we were just saying they need somebody to get behind the South China Pegasus defence, and that's exactly what they did.
Well, until they start doing this, Mark, they're not going to get anywhere, and this is not unsimilar to the goal, and that's the difference with the finish. He's got it on target and done very well to do so, but just unable to, with the power, to get it into that far corner. But that's much better from Sparta Prague.
So we're getting confirmation. Here is Martin Zeman, the left fullback. He knows how to get around defences. He did very well at doing that in the opening game. Pleased to see him coming on. And he has replaced number 28, Matsujevic, Miroslav Matsujevic, who really was a little ineffective, has to be said, well, at least for the best part of this 60 minutes.
I think if Sparta Prague can put the South China under some pressure for a sustained period, I think they'll make mistakes at the back, and I think they'll make a few errors, and that's their best chance. If they continue to make nice pretty patterns in midfield, South China will be allowed, Pegasus will be allowed to get behind the ball and make it very, very difficult.
There's going to be a yellow card for Schultz this time, evening things up. And yeah, I think he acknowledges that he did come from behind. Not sure who it is down, but Kuznir is over there as well. It's not Kuznir actually, it's it's our boy Igor Zoflak who's been caught.
There's been a lot of those tonight, Mark. Little back of the heel, back of the ankles, Achilles tendons.
Schultz coming over doing the honourable thing. Picks up a yellow card, and just confirmation. We've got around, it's pretty much the same type of crowd that were here for Monday's round of games. And there are some, I'm not sure a New York Yankees fan, but we have around 9,500 to 10,000 people here at Hong Kong Stadium. And I suppose a little disappointing for Hong Kong FA. I would want a few more people in the stadium, but maybe things being what they are, then 10,000 people is maybe not that bad. Of course, you know, Sparta Prague and Suwon Blue Wings, without being too disrespectful, as you said before, Tom, we've had some huge international teams participate in this event.
Yeah, when you've had World Cup teams that are in the top 10 come here, and South American champions, etc., it just shows you how hard it is for the Hong Kong FA to bring the calibre of teams here, and the sponsors aren't throwing money around anymore, as we know. So, you know, these are hard times, you know, for sport in general.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's always been a problem. And if you think where our Chinese New Year's is an early one this year, or a chance again, no real power. But, you know, towards the end of January, February, for European sides, it's difficult, isn't it, to interrupt, you know, particularly to fly halfway around the world to play in, you know, an invitation tournament in Asia.
Yeah, I think the thing with the Cup before, I think it had World Cup status, in the sense that you got actual points for the teams that were in there, because there were normally 3 international sides, so it was worth coming. And especially the Scandinavian teams used to enjoy coming here.
Yeah, during their break, of
during
course.
Their break, and you know, even if they brought their under-23 sides, it was a full squad. So you were getting a little bit of the cream of the crop, so to speak.
Well, coming out up to 65 minutes, and well, there's still plenty of time left for Sparta Prague, but unless they really exert themselves and be a little more positive, they could go 3 down. You never know the way South China are finishing goals at the moment.
Well, the thing that Sparta Prague will find with this side is that they are streetwise, Mark. They're not, you know, they're not kids. They're not naive. They've been around the block, a lot of these players. You know, they're going to be eking out little fouls, slowing the game down. They don't have to do anything, as I said at the beginning. They've done, you know, 50% of the job, scoring 2 goals. They've not sat back. They've carried on exactly in the same vein that they did in the first half, which is the way to go. And I feel unless Sparta get one very soon, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to get anything from this game.
So I'm not sure if he's injured or not, but Igor Zoflak will come off, and he's replaced by Kulic, who did start the first game. And well, another positive move, because Kulic,
well, what they need, to be honest, Mark, is exactly what Talas Schultz did for South China Pegasus, which is a goal out of the blue with a half chance.
Yeah, and then they're right back in it, aren't they? But so far, they've not been as positive as they need to be. There's still a lot of, you know, it's all too easy. There's, you know, everybody's got time on the ball. Nobody's really going by a man, are they, in the middle of the park, just to open things up. And that's easily cleared again.
Well, it's meat and drink, really, for the back four. Everything that's been thrown at them, head and wise, have just gobbled up.
So here is the one of our substitutes, Kulka.
And they're quite mobile, the 4, you know, they've got virtually 2 holding midfield players there in the middle, and they're breaking everything up. Some fresh legs possibly here, looking for some breaks with a space at the back.
Well, here's the Japanese boy, Akono, Masayoki Akono, who is going to be thrown on. So we've now got 3 changes for South China Pegasus, and we will replace Santos.
I suppose the thing is with this tournament, with the extra substitutes being allowed, when someone runs out of gas, they can bring on some fresh legs.
Yep. Well, they can. There's no restrictions. We have seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 changes for Sparta Prague so far, and unfortunately, Patrick Berger won't be one of them. He's not down on the bench this evening. They've got one more change left, beg your pardon, 2, including Blazak, the goalkeeper who played in the opening game. So really he hasn't got too many more options left to him. The boys on the field have just got to do their stuff.
Well, the problem is when you bring in 4 or 5 people, whether you like it or not, it does disrupt the rhythm of the team. You know, they take a little period of time to get in. Normally it's a striker or a winger that you're going to bring in who's going to change the game with a little bit of magic, and that hasn't been the case so far. As you can see here, they're actually struggling. South China Pegasus have sat back. The 2 centre-halves here are looking up, and what they're seeing is probably just a sea of red shirts and minimal movement. He'll have to probably go back to the keeper. If he's not careful, the keeper will do it out of his hands because he can't get forward.
Well, it's disappointing, isn't it, to see, really? I mean, well, credit due to the home side, if you like. They are also not allowing Sparta Prague to play. But I just expect that bit more from them.
Absolutely, it's not a criticism of South China Pegasus. Exactly what I would do. It's not for South China Pegasus to make a game of it. They have made a game of it by banging in 2 goals. It's up to our European friends to come here and show us all the bits that they've got. And they're falling a bit short at the moment. They're running out of ideas.
Oh, they really are, and it's disappointing. There's a number of youngsters on there who should be hungry, chomping at the bit. It's Martin Zeman who's been caught by the substitute Kono, who's just, well, both of them have just literally come on the field, so hopefully he's okay.
The problem is as well, Mark, the more there's little stoppages and fouls, the more it breaks up the game. It more allows people to get a rest. You talk to your defenders, you talk to your midfield, you get organised. What you want is the game to just keep flowing and have a sea and wave after wave of attack where people start to get tired mentally, physically, and that's when the chances come. At the moment, Sparta Prague can't get up ahead of steam.
No, I think it was a good point, and here it looks like Schultz down this right-hand side this time with his slightly weaker right foot, but that wasn't a bad ball either, and it's going to be a corner for South China Pegasus. So the 2 goal scorers combining again, the Korean Kim.
Well, they're managing to get people joining in the box, Mark. Schultz has been the one that's caught the eye every time he's done. What little he's had of the ball, he's used it very, very well. He's been effective. He's held it up well. He's worked hard. He's tracked back. Apart from giving the penalty, which is immaterial now, he's been outstanding. But having said that, strikers always catch the eye. But you've obviously, the back 4 have been great because, Sparta Prague haven't had a sniff.
No, all round it's been a super performance from the local side. It should be the goalkeepers, and it taken comfortably in the end. That's what they've got to do. They've got to release players early and try and disrupt and hit. I mean, very, very poor. It's just aimlessly played in, and South China, again to your point, Tony, are breaking up play, aren't they?
Yeah, they're this will suit them. And Sparta Prague they need a bit of luck really, and they're not going to get any because they're not getting around the 18-yard box. The 2 boys that have come on haven't had a kick really, and what little half chances they've had, it's either been pulled back for a foul or an offside, but they just haven't been allowed to get going. So all credit to South China Pegasus.
Well, yeah, you can't blame the boys up front. They've just had no real service, have they? In all honesty, and here's the German. He's broke his way through there, and he's just got to pull the trigger a little earlier, hasn't he? He's got it onto his left side, and that's the substitute. Kulic got into a very, very presentable situation here.
Well, he's got it stuck under his foot, Mark. It started on his right foot, and then his second touch took him onto his left foot, and in the end he wasn't able to get it.
Zeman with the corner.
Seems like an infringement.
Yeah, definitely. Just to repeat what you were saying, Tony, these boys, South Americans, have been around the block without question, and they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, they're all pros, not old in the sense of age-wise, but they've all been at pro clubs. Ball swung in here. I'm not really sure what happens. There's a lot of bodies going in, and he's just caught one across the cheek. Not sure if it's a foul, to be honest, but probably quite a painful little bang there for him.
Roberto Fronza. As, yeah, looks like he's taken one to his ear, perhaps, or high on his cheek, maybe. But nevertheless, he's gone down and he's won his side a free kick.
Well, he'll be happy to take one for the boys. It slows the game down. And again, to be fair, our home crowd are delighted. We'll sit there and suffer the cold as long as the score remains at 2-0. They'll be more than happy with the way that they performed.
Well, they certainly will.
And to be fair, after a relatively poor start, slow start, the goal certainly brought them to life, and you know they've played to their max.
Yeah, I mean, definitely after that first goal, they didn't really look overawed. I think the first 10 minutes they struggled somewhat, but since the first goal went in, they've kind of fancied it. Here's a bit of space they're opening up, and he's onside. Or he just pulled back, but Jan Hollander, no, he does get caught offside. I thought he'd broken through there, but nevertheless it was run all the way through to Lee anyway.
Well, there's a couple of chinks of light there, Mark. That's 2 little attacks that we've seen in the last 5 minutes, and you know there's 15 odd minutes to go, so you know South China Pegasus need to keep focused, because don't give it. Every time I say they need to hang on, they end up scoring. So I'll keep saying that, but that was a terrific effort by Kaka.
Well, what some strike, wasn't it? It really was.
I think it's just another example, Mark. He's hit the post, actually. It's a terrific effort. It's another example of them, Mark. They've created very, very little, but whatever they've created, they've made the most of. Whether it's a cross or a shot, that's a super effort. Half chance, bang. That could have been 3-0, game over.
Well, it really could. And again, from nothing, really. It was a sort of a defensive headed clearance under pressure from Schultz.
Well, they're just picking up the second ball, Mark. Anything that goes in the air, they know the big boys are going to give them trouble.
Well, Repka is in trouble here, and it's Schultz trying to kill one in the far corner, and he has won a corner. A few more minutes, and Thomas Repka, very uncharacteristically of him, again, you know, they let the ball bounce. You've just got to be first to it, haven't you? And like you said, Tony, I think years gone by, you know, he would have been onto that like a shot.
Well, I think they're just off the pace, Mark. I think you know, they've caught an organised local side who basically know how to play these games. You know, you've got a lot of expats in there. I expect they're very surprised at the team that they're facing.
Yeah, well, definitely. It's probably a defender having a go at that one, I think it was. But
you can hear the crowd, Mark. That's what they want. I mean, they want to see, you know, attempts at goal and balls going across the thing. They don't want to see slow build-ups and fouls and throw-ins and corner, you know, free kicks, etc. You can hear them. They're getting excited about anything that flashes across in front of the goal. They love it.
Well, that's what it's all about, entertainment, and South China Pegasus are certainly providing that, more so than our European Sparta Prague side, who you know, really on paper should have had too much for this locally put together South China Pegasus side. And the referee just getting a little whistle happy there, trying to calm things down.
For all his good work, it's unnecessary, really. He wants to you know, let everybody know he's the boss. Well, we know that because he's been doing so well. But this is a critical period now for Sparta Prague. If they don't get something soon, you know, it's curtains.
Well, again, South China, some good, brave defensive work there. Poor touch, very, very poor, and they're just not at the races, are they? Schultz is going to have a run after this one. Hollander just eases his man over and commits a foul. Very silly from the big 17.
To be honest, everything he's done, Mark, has been a foul. Every time he's touched the ball, it's a foul and free kick. With his body language, he looks as if he's been out there 4 hours.
Yeah, well, you know, he was, in all honesty, Tony, he was like that on Monday as well. He was just, you know, he's just almost too combative. You know, he wants to put a foot in and he wants to push and go. You know, you just can't, particularly with our local Hong Kong official, as we know, you just can't do that.
No, you work out within 15 minutes what sort of referee you've got, and you have to adapt.
That's right. I mean, it doesn't. You know, you don't have to be living here as long as us to know that. You get a feel for how he's going to officiate the game, don't you?
It's worldwide. You know, you can tell if he's a fussy ref, he's a play-on ref. If he lets you get, you know, your foot in, or he doesn't like any contact, then you just have to adjust.
See what Repka does with that. Well, that's a little better, which you would expect.
But if they can get one, Mark, it would be an interesting last 10 minutes, because I think, you know, South China Pegasus will feel the pressure.
Yeah, I think so. It would really set things up. Here's Peter Sergio to Kolik. Well, that's Schultz. He's put that one into the high tier of this Hong Kong stadium. Doesn't matter though, there's plenty of other balls around, so it's not going to waste too much time. This is better from Sparta Prague. I'm not sure who it was trying to get on the end of that, but just a little too high for him. It looks like it was Hollander.
Yeah, that was, again, just off the mark there, just the ball a little too high. Everything they've done, to be honest, Mark, hasn't really worked for them. You know, it's a combination of poor timing into the box, combination of the ball just not being right. They've just not been, you know, they didn't take the gift from the first half with a penalty, which would have probably, you know, they could have kicked on from there, because South China didn't really feel that, South China Pegasus didn't look a team that felt they could win this. They had that look of holding on about them already, and as soon as that we went on, they actually went from strength to strength.
Yeah, no, it was a real wasted opportunity, because you could just see, I mean, you know, had Wilfred banged that one in, they were just going to shut up shop, and it would have been very difficult for the home side to make a real impact. But like you say, as it was, they took their opportunity, they rode the luck a little bit, and credit due to them so far. Kuzney. He's going to be fouled now from our goal scorer.
This is where, as a coach, you get a little nervous when people get tired and they start giving corners and free kicks away in dangerous areas, because, you know, set pieces are always difficult to defend against if the delivery's right.
And Martin Zeman has gone all the way over there, and the reason being he's got a super left foot on him. So let's see, have a look at his delivery here, and of course they'll be looking for the big fellow Jan Hollander in the middle there. Number 17, if you can pick him out. So let's see what Zeman can do. Well, it wasn't bad, and it was goalward bound, and Hollander's just pulled off, and it's that young man there who's got a vital touch onto it.
It was a great delivery, Mark. Just a little touch there. He didn't really know much about it, but Hollander's, you know, he's on his heels. Not sure if you would have got it, maybe we're being a bit harsh on him, but look at the striker there, you know, anticipate,
You've got
throw
to gamble,
yourself at it.
you?
Yeah, just throw yourself at it. You never know.
So our goal scorer comes off, and I'm pleased to say we do have another locally well, born and nurtured player coming on, Wong Chin Hung. Good to see. Just replacing Kim Yeung Gun.
Well, it's a nice game for the young man to come in. 2-0 up. Your side not really being in too much trouble. And if anything, South China Pegasus look as if they'll get a goal rather than Sparta Prague.
Well, about 9 or 10 minutes left, including injury time, and really Sparta Prague in the next 5 minutes or so do need to get something, or else it's going to be too little too late. He's let that one run on, so I'll substitute Deng. And that's good work from Kolka. Here is Peter Sergio, and good defending from Deng again. It was Kolka who'd continued his run. Not a bad turn, but Yeah, I must say, Tony, in terms of defensive organisation, you don't say that often for a local side, but of course, as we've said, a lot of these players are the foreign players in Hong Kong, but they've been well organised, haven't they, and fully committed.
Well, the difference has been, you know, that Sparta Prague just haven't taken their half chances. They haven't had many, but what they have been given, they haven't taken their opportunities of late or yet.
That's a little better from Sparta Prague, a bit more commitment in midfield to win that ball.
But you're right, I mean, over the years it's normally the back six goalkeeper that tends to catch the eye in these games, because, you know, the home side's normally on the rack. You know, the biggest compliment we can play South China Pegasus tonight is that they don't look as if overawed, and they haven't been outplayed and outclassed. And that's a little bit of an indictment to Sparta Prague. But again, that represents that it does make a huge difference when you get 6-7 Europeans in there who have plied their trade in Europe or come from a professional club and are able to come to a good service, a good pitch, a good crowd, and you know, show us what they can do. And all credit to them.
Yeah, I mean, they've all looked confident on the ball. That none of them have been overawed, and I think that shows in the overall performance. It hasn't just been the sort of defensive 5 or 6. It's been all over the field where they're happy to, here you go, happy to have a touch or two and play football. And this young man here, Schultz, looks, well, to me, it looks like he could play for Sparta Prague, Tony, to be perfectly honest with you.
He's caught the eye, and the question always is, someone always has an outstanding game when they come in these games, and it's his night tonight. We've seen it in the past with strikers scoring goals and hat-tricks, and, you know, unfortunately for the likes of Mr. Schultz, he obviously doesn't do it every week where he's come from. But he's done it tonight, and credit where credit's due.
So a familiar face to many just coming on, Coutinho, the big Brazilian striker, is about 6'5", something like that, but he's not quite the player as Talis Schultz, is he? You know, he's a bit of a battering ram, and there he goes. But, you know, he's got a flick on straight away, and he's replaced Carlos Eduardo.
He's a bit of a blunt instrument, Mark, where a scalpel could be used on occasions. Again, in Hong Kong in particular, he is a massive handful. He's a Goliath of a man, and quite frankly, there isn't really any of the local players that can handle him, which is why most of the players you see this evening are quite big, especially in defensive ones, because if you look at Talis Schultz, and Kaká has just come off, and a lot of the league is full of long, big physical strikers these days.
Well, here is Coutinho, and he's providing a handful for the Sparta Prague defenders as well, which, as you said, Tony, is largely down to his huge frame. But, you know, he's not a bad option to throw on, is he? At this stage, he's going to.
No, he's perfect, Mark. What you want is just to be able to bypass the midfield, sit back as a unit, bang it up front, and say to two people, go and join the big fella. And he might roll someone and smash one in, because he's capable of doing that as well.
Yeah, he's a handy little tool to have on coming in. Now that really, you see how the South China boy, it's the substitute Deng's just come in and won that one. That really sums up their performance generally. They've been a little sharper, they've been willing to get in front of people. Here's the young boy.
They just haven't been able to get behind them, Mark. That's the big thing. What they've done is South China Pegasus have dropped off when they've needed to the 18-yard box, which means that all the balls are going through to the goalkeeper, and they've held that line, and they've said, play in front of us, and they haven't really been smart or bright enough in front of goal.
Well, they really haven't, and the two Brazilians now, the South China pairing, Talis Schultz, he's really, well, he's tricked his way by again with a little flick, and Coutinho was waiting in the box, didn't quite make it to him. Here's Martin.
Like he's carrying a bit of an injury, really, and Schultz is down. It's a good run, though.
Martin Zeman, well, this is what he's capable of doing, and that's why he's been brought on. It's just broken down, mind you. He's still got the ball, though. Sparta Prague, if they can nick one here, they could. It's a poor ball in to nobody, really. Coutinho.
Well, that's not smart play, Mark. I mean, you know, you've got second phase, you've got the ball back, you've got 2 against 1 on the flank, and all he's done is just banged the ball in there and kept his fingers crossed and hopes it finds a yellow shirt.
Yeah, exactly. At least
not clever play for this level.
Get a throw in or a free kick or something, which we have seen. Well, this is better. He's onside, Hollander.
There's a lot of red shirts in there, Mark.
Oh, there seems to be a push on somebody. And we're going to see yet another change. Just a few minutes gone. Another local boy coming on, Man Pei Tak, the young Hong Kong Chinese, and he'll replace, I believe on the back of his shirt is Fofo, but Agbo Wisdom Fofo is the full name I have in front of me.
Hasn't seen much of the ball, Mark, but I can tell he's put an awful lot of work in breaking things up. Hasn't been spectacular,
yep.
And but what he has done is he's enabled Schultz and the front 2 midfield players to get forward, and he's dug in and done very well there.
Well, you know, I think it was probably Claude Makelele made that role famous, didn't he, at Real Madrid? But it is, of course, we have Michael Essien, who does a fantastic job with it now at Chelsea. Oh, just as they are free, and the youngster, tremendous defending again, absolutely. They did double up, and the young boy thought he was going to get himself and his Sparta Prague teammates a goal, but excellent defending, and Hollanders just headed that one out.
Yeah, you're right there, Mark. I mean, right to the end there. It's the 88th minute, 89th minute, and 2 defenders have thrown themselves at that ball, determined not to give anything away, and that's epitomised the whole performance, to be honest. They've got their noses in front, and they've been determined this half not to give anything away.
Well, credit due to them, because it was certainly last-ditch defending and full commitment. You see again. I mean, I sympathise with the Sparta Prague players. I mean, we've played in Hong Kong. We know local officials are like. But at the end of the day, if that's what it is, when in Rome, that's what it is.
Absolutely.
And there's no point just getting bent out of shape and frustrated with it. You have to deal with what you're given, and it's not like they don't know. The whole game has been like that. So was Monday. Well, this time it goes against Man Pei Tak. Sparta really just allowing themselves to get frustrated. Hollander.
Difference already with this little fella. He's actually caused more problems in the 3 minutes that he's been on than they've had all afternoon, all evening.
Yeah, just lack of experience, isn't it, really? And as you say, he's given 2 or 3 free kicks away in the space of 3 minutes. And talking of 3 minutes, we just saw we've come up to the 90, and added time will only be 3 minutes, so this has to go in, really, and that's an awful free kick. It was Kulka with the effort, substitute, and yeah, that man there, terrible effort. It didn't do anything.
Well, he's had a lovely evening as well. He's hardly had anything to do, and what he has done, he's done, you know, very efficiently. He can pat himself on the back. He's kept South China Pegasus into it when they needed it, and since then his back 4 have kept the chances down to a minimum.
So what we have seen from this South China Pegasus side is is a controlled game of football, whereas quite often a number of the local players, unfortunately, they do panic a little bit instead of just putting a foot on the ball, getting some composure and trying to play.
Well, we both know, Mark, what it's like when you're playing allegedly superior opposition and you get that goal. It does lift you enormously, you know, in terms of the game plan. I was talking about being a bonus, and you know, they did a double whammy on them. They basically mugged them really in the first half, but the second half has been a very, very professional performance. Questions were asked to Sparta Prague and they haven't been able to answer them.
Well, they certainly haven't, and just coming up to the last few minutes here. Kulic just getting a flick on. Hollander can't get near it. And you see, even that, Tony, South China Pegasus didn't, he could have just kicked that anywhere, and they continued to try and play it. Unfortunately, lost possession. It's not a bad ball, and the goalkeeper has done enough, as here. Have they scored? I think he's given it, hasn't he?
Oh my goodness.
Well, there's about 35 seconds to play, and the goalkeeper's stayed down. It was a little bit of a hopeful ball, in all honesty, and there was a jump with Jian Li. Kuznia is there's been some connection on him as well. He's in South China Pegasus.
Yeah, it's all too little, too late, to be honest. It looks like he's been caught in a very delicate area, shall we say.
Oh yeah, that.
I think he realises by his body language, Mark, it's a little bit too little, too late. They should have been doing this, from the beginning, putting balls in, asking questions of the goalkeeper. Have a look. They haven't even tested him once. Basically, what he's done, he's come down and kneed him there.
Well, it's Peter. It's a little bit of a delayed reaction, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's Peter Sergio has just pinged a hopeful ball in
he's
here.
Come out the side of his boot there. Didn't intend to do that. It's a keeper's ball, to be honest.
Yeah.
Defender's slow to react. Very brave, and all he's done, he's landed on him there as he's come up, and his boots caught him. And I think he's just realised that actually that hurts.
Well, it was very much a delayed reaction because, it's in a very delicate spot, and he just needs to get his breath back there a little bit.
93. Yeah. Well, I think they'll kick this off. It'll go back. If he's smart, he'll give it back. He'll bang it in the corner, and it's all over.
Well, that's right. Silly goal to give away in any case. But Jan Hollander did at least challenge for that ball with our goalkeeper Lee, and which led to that goal. But it's just going to run out for a harmless goal kick. And I'm pretty sure, as you say, Tony, our referee Liu Kwok Man is, as this ball's in the air, he should be blowing up, because we've played the allotted, we've played more than the allotted time. Of course, we just did have the injury. Repka goes all the way back, and the goalkeeper's put it out for a throw. That should be that, really. Yeah, credit due to Kim. He's got the South China Pegasus side very well organised, and there we have confirmation. South China Pegasus, the locally formed team here, have run out, I'd say deservedly, two goals to one winners.
I think so, Mark. I sometimes sit in it, and there's always been an element of luck with the way they've won things. But overall, I think for the 90 minutes, apart from the first 25, Sparta Prague were sort of like thinking they were into things. It was down to them.
Okay, so 2-1 winners, and join us after this short break